Hi, I am Christine, and I am bringing all these lovely women here today to share with you Walking the Headless Way. And I brought this group together because I wanted to share women's voices, because I feel like that's an important thing in our world, to allow women to share their voices and perspectives. And I just felt like this was an important topic and a fun topic to discuss. We are kind of emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic, and kind of the world is, we're starting to come out of hibernation, I feel more so, as we get fully vaccinated. Whether you do that or not is fine. But I just felt like this was Walking the Headless Way is kind of exploring the stillness and the openness, the capacity for stillness and motion, and what that means for all of us, because we recognize that we're built wide open and that the scene moves through us. And I'm going to pass it to Kathleen to introduce herself, and maybe we can all just popcorn introduce ourselves and just share a little sentence or two.
I'm Kathleen, and yeah, I'm looking forward to how we express this simple concept, and I'll pass to Susan.
I'm Susan, and glad to be here. I'm looking forward to hearing other people's comments about walking and walking the headless way. And I'll pass to Barbara.
Muted, Barbara.
Thank you for that. Yeah, my name's Barbara. I've been, after a 14-year search, I finally made my way to the Headless Way. So it's been a few years now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Love being with you girls, and excited about, what the void brings up, and to share our experiences. So I'll pass to Pam. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pam, and I have found the Headless Way to probably be the most accessible way to see my true nature. And I've also been a seeker for many, many years. And the Headless Way, like I said, is instant. It's based on my actual direct experience. And I'm excited to talk about it with you. And I'll pass it to Judy.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I'm Judy. I'm here in the UK. I'm actually sitting in Richard's room, not in my own house. How did I get into this? It was a long time ago, and it made, I wasn't searching for long, but I was searching intently. And I think intention helps. And I was introduced to Douglas by a friend. And when he showed me my facelessness, my headlessness, wow, it was a big epiphany moment. And it stuck with me ever since. Walking is one of the things I've always done. And but generally in the kind of way where you go really up mountains, puffing and sweating. And it's only lately that I've got to enjoying the strolling kind of walk, the seeing kind of walk, but I'm into that now. So that's where I am on it. And we did think that we would maybe share with everyone, in case there are people who are new, an experiment to start with. And I think, Kathleen, you had something in mind.
Sure. Well, this topic, it reminds me a little of how when you stand on a bridge and watch the river go by, at first you're stationary and the river is swiftly moving underneath you, and then you develop soft eyes and continue to gaze, and suddenly you're zooming along and the river is still and you feel like this sense of motion. And it occurs to me like how easily interchangeable those concepts are of like, because it's neither is true or both are equally true, you know, which one is still and which is moving. Or if you think about the rotation of the earth, if you are walking opposite the rotation of the earth, then is the earth moving or are you kind of like on an earth treadmill? So I've been keeping these concepts in mind the past few weeks as we've been preparing for this, whenever I move, but also even whenever I just shift my gaze. And so I thought we'd start, since we're not going to be walking around in the video, and probably if you're watching, you're not going to be either, but just move your head back and forth and look around, look up, look down, and you're initially, because of our conditioning, going to be thinking that I'm moving my head, obviously, so the scenery is changing. But think of yourself as just one eye, one space that's looking out, and kind of drop the concept of a head and continue turning your head and shifting your gaze, and then notice that you're quite stationary, taking this all in, and the scenery is continually changing. But there's a stillness or a steadiness. The observer never moves.
Yes. This looking out of one eye, when we are so conditioned to think that we're looking out of two, like I've got my glasses, those of us who have glasses, we see two lenses out there, but when we put them on, what I find happening is that those two lenses merge into one, and I am really single-eyed, like a cyclops, or like Zeus. Was it Zeus or Wotan? The god of wisdom, anyway, he had a single eye. And to find two eyes, for me to find two eyes, I have to look there on the screen, where I see 6 women's faces, and one of them has the name that I, you know, the name that I would say my name, Judy's name, but it's not here, it's there. And it's so obvious when you just look. And a simple, like a small child, where is my face? It's there. And it's in you because you're receiving it. And it's also being received by this spaciousness here that I'm looking out of. So it all sounds quite complicated, but actually it's really simple when you look. And it's such a surprise, isn't it? Of course I've got a face. I think, of course I must have. Everybody's got one. Well, when you really look, you're the one person who hasn't, at least not here where you are.
Yes, it's really fascinating how, from our own perspective, when we don't take, you know, past experience or what we're told, when we just take it on present evidence, when I point to where others see my face, I don't see a face. I only see the appearance of my face on mirrors or on, say, a teaspoon or out there in the world, and others have my face and I have theirs. And there's a really beautiful poem by Pablo Neruda. It's To the Foot from Its Child. And I'm just going to read the first line of this poem, which I think is lovely and fits with our topic. A child's foot doesn't know it's a foot yet. It wants to be a butterfly or an apple. And given that this is walking the headless way, I'm hoping that this will perhaps become a podcast that people can listen to and go on a headless walk with us as we're communicating and sharing one voice out of, many voices and one consciousness. And so I'd love to pass it perhaps to Pam, if you wanted to share, what this walking the headless way, what it means for you, or anything you'd like to share about it.
Well, I took your instruction literally, and this morning when I was on my morning walk, I had the intention. I was very the word to attend is powerful for me, because I decided to really, focus on what was I really seeing. What's my direct experience. Oftentimes I'll get lost in thought, and I remember the first time I got lost in thought, and I was walking along, and I thought, oh my gosh, I missed a big chunk of the walk because I was so in my head. But this morning I was specific about attending to seeing. And one thing that I love to do, and this is a fun thing, is when I'm walking and I look down at my feet, I see feet moving, but then it's like being on a treadmill. And the world is moving past me. My feet are moving, but I'm still. So it's like, that's like a fun thing that I do. It's like being on a treadmill. And the other thing that I recognized was that, there's nothing above my shoulders. And so I am not in the world. I am space for the world. And I remember the first time this happened too, a few years ago. I was in the woods and I just heard about the Headless Way. And I thought, oh, I imagined like being headless, and the woods just filled this space. So that was my first direct experience of being not in the world like I always thought I was, but instead having the world in me. And that's such a profound shift in perception. And so where I'm at now is I notice how I toggle back and forth. And sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't. But when I remember, it's just such a richer, more profound experience, as opposed to thinking I'm a little person in the world and I'm alone, I got to struggle. But man, opening up, being busted wide open for the world, it's like profound. So those are some of the things I was thinking about walking today, the treadmill. Oh, another fun thing was when I'm walking, I live in a neighborhood where there are these mailboxes on the side of the road or in front of houses. So as I'm walking, a mailbox will be really small, far away. And as I get closer and closer, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then boom, disappears. So that's another kind of fun thing that I do, noticing objects going from really small to bigger. So I'd love to hear what Susan has to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been enjoying exploring walking in the Headless Way, and I first found the Headless Way probably just a little over a year ago, right at the start of the pandemic. So, but one of the things that occurred to me early on was that I am looking out and I cannot see my face. I can see hands, I can see feet moving. And then there's a point which I realized that my face is all this that I see. And I'm walking into or becoming this experience of all that's happening. So I sort of get the feeling I am this happening. And there's a very joyful kind of feeling about it. It's very childlike. Like children enjoy watching their hands move and their feet move, and that whole experience just really comes alive in this recognition of this being this open space for all of this happening. And I know the walk that I usually do in front of the building that I live in is near a river, and that's very peaceful to see that kind of flowing and be part of the whole flow of the experience. But what I love the most is I love the stairs, and I love just absolutely getting there and just taking those stairs two at a time. It just feels exuberant. Doesn't feel effortful, even though it is effort. It feels so at ease. There's so much ease in it, even though there's constant movement. So that's really it's been very fun. So I would love to hear from Judy a little bit more about her experience.
Well, I have been doing a lot of marching lately. I've been marching on protests against climate change. And today, that was what I was doing in London. And what you're saying about the world within me and the world within you is so vivid when it is a great crowd of people, colorful with flags and a lot of excitement and noise as well, because the noise appears in the silence here. I mean, you've got to be receptive for the noise and the colors and the movement and all that. And it's a very vivid experience of life, isn't it? Because I do a lot of walking in the countryside, which is kind of gentle and peaceful amongst green trees and distant birds. And, you know, that's a different kind of walking. But it's all within this space. I'm all container for it. And I think what comes from that for me is it's all acceptable. Whatever's going on is all, I can welcome it. And I think that also includes when one's feet hurt or when the pack is too heavy, when you are feeling, oh, I wish I hadn't decided to go on such a long walk, because those aches and pains and tiredness and out of breath feeling is also contained in the spaciousness. And of course, that is an example, I think, of when life is not going quite the way you'd like it to, and yet we are still capacity for that. That's what came to mind when you were saying that, Susan. Barbara, how's your experience?
Thank you, Judy. I'm really enjoying listening to everybody, and I can resonate. And that's the beautiful thing. Everything that has been said so far has also been my own direct experience. And I notice when I go walking that everything's given. I don't know what's coming around the corner. It just shows up. Everything's always given to me. I'm so lucky that everything is presented to me, given wherever I look. a constant changing of scene and scenery. And like Judy, I also like walking in the woods, getting out into nature. And I remember vividly, it brought me to tears actually, walking. I didn't even have my dog, so I was walking in a forest by me, and there was not one tiny scrap of humanity that I could relate to or even call myself, because everything I looked at was green, trees, wildflowers. There was no sense of even being a human with a face. But when I looked at the grass, I was the grass. When I looked at the flowers, the sky, everything, I identified with everything that I saw. And there was no Barbara's face looking back at me. There was just nature. And it's wonderful. I heard somebody say once, I can't remember who it was, and it really resonated with me that, you know, it's also when I look around that it's the space that we think divides us actually joins us together. There's no separation at all, that there is no gap between what I imagine to see. The gap there is always filled with something. There's no empty space. It's always filled. It's completely full. But when I point back here, I see nothing. There is no thing here. Yet out there it is full of everything. And it's just so wonderful to have that and to be fully integrated into that and not be separate. You know, when I do the 2-finger, if we could do that now, the 2-finger experiment where you point back with 1 finger and then you point out into the world. So you look out there and you point to something and you notice it is a thing. And when you point back, you see no thing. But the two are one. There is no separation. It is one without a second, as they say, and it's always that way. It's such a joy and such a revelation, really, because I, like Judy, when I first realised, when the penny dropped, if you like, I was astounded. I was, oh my goodness, it's that thing, isn't it? What I was looking for is what's looking. And it's there, right? It's just there. And it can be missed. You know, it's there. It's always been there. It's wonderful.
Yes, well stated, Barbara. Thank you. We're always consciously being that which supports the coming and going without itself becoming disturbed. So there's all this coming and going, both, you know, as we're walking and we can see the scenery moving into us. And at the same time, we're kind of the source. We're the bedrock of the world and where it all begins and it all ends. And we, as awareness, as conscious awareness, we are the unmoved mover. We are the unmoved mover, and allowing all of this coming and going to flow in and out of our spaciousness and our whatever word you want to put onto that, because it's truly a wordless, it's an experience that cannot be described. I mean, it's not even an experience. Some people call it source, some people call it void, some people call it the divine, some people call it mystery. Whatever word you, as the listener, want to apply to it, some people call it who they really, really are, or their true nature, or their face before they were born. There's no right or wrong here. It's like a smorgasbord where you get to choose what works for you and what resonates with you. And if it doesn't resonate with you, then that's okay. It's all available as whatever speaks to your heart. So just considering that we're on a walk. So putting ourselves into that frame of here all on a walk and a journey together. Just notice any smells, any sounds, the shifting light, the shades of green, and recognize that you are this open, empty spaciousness that is allowing you have to be empty to be filled with this scene. It's just if you were an artist and you had every part of your page completely filled, you wouldn't be empty. The page wouldn't be empty to fill it. So we are like open, empty artists' palettes or pages, or I'm kind of mixing all my metaphors, but we're just completely built open. We're the container being filled with the wind and the smells and the sounds and the weather and the bodily sensations. In fact, even this embodiment, it's all contained as filling us, and the sense of space and the sense of distance, feeling the ground beneath your feet. And like some people have said, the stairs, if you're going upstairs or up a hill, it's like an escalator that's moving through you, or the sidewalk is like a treadmill, and it's all, the scene is flowing into you and out of you, and there's no separation between that empty fullness. It's just one. It's a movement and stillness that, I think Kathleen said, it toggles, the awareness toggles between the space that we are and the scene that's filling it.
Mm. I'd like to say that I really loved the way you put that, Barbara. What I was looking for was is what was looking. I really like that. We're searching for something and have the sense of having found it, having come home. I thought it was really, really interesting that Sam Harris, who I follow on his podcasts and things and his meditation, who speaks very warmly about the Headless Way. A couple of weeks ago, he did a walking meditation. And one of the things that he mentioned was saying, when you're walking and somebody comes towards you, just notice if that brings up any sense of judgment, or any sense of any feelings of a kind of, that I like the look of that person, or I don't like the look of that person. Any thoughts and reactions that you might have as they're coming towards you. And as Susan said, they're coming towards you and then they're going to disappear in a moment into the spaciousness and be gone. But I think we often, when I'm walking and somebody's there coming towards me, I do have, what would you say? Well, I react to it. And I just wanted to say that reaction is also part of the world. I don't have to own it. I don't have to say, well, that is me putting myself into this picture of nature or city life where it doesn't belong. It does belong, and it's just for noticing, really. It's not central to this clear awareness. I wondered if other people have this experience. Is that how you see it when you interact with someone else on your walk?
This morning, Judy, I had that experience. I was walking and another person started walking toward me. And at first there was that, body to body. And there's that instant like, oh, there's someone else. And I recognized that and I felt it. But then I remembered my true nature and I became, the space that I am where it was non-confrontational then. Being the capacity for that other person then like dissolved any sense of other. And it was relaxing. It's like, oh, I'm just, I'm space for that person. So it wasn't face to face, it was space to face. And that shifted everything.
Yeah.
So I also have those experiences of the thoughts when someone's approaching me or something I see. And there's something about the walking because there's this very deliberate motion. And as everything visual passes by or is let go of, it's the thought when I'm walking, it's much, it's like this experience of the thoughts themselves. Those are left on the path. Those, also get moved. They don't, I don't hold on to them. It just this there's a flow to it that that if I'm not in that motion, I might just kind of hold that thought. I might just think that it's real, but the walking experiment seems to just provide that sense of relief because everything's released. More comes, it's released. And it's very helpful in that way to compare that with what I might do in a different situation.
I find it fascinating, really, because once one realizes that that one is wide open for the other, when somebody comes towards you, then you realize that they are built wide open for you also, that they are lovingly, without them even knowing it, they are lovingly allowing me in, and they have no barrier. They cannot stop it, as I cannot stop them. And it is unconditional love, really. There are no conditions to it, whether we like it or not, or we have a judgment about it, or we get a vibe that this person maybe, we should avoid or whatever. In that immediate, there's just an immediacy about when the light of awareness shines on that person. It's like, well, we're here together, we're one now here. There's no separation whatsoever. And they may be scowling at you or hurried and in a rush, but for that split second they've shown you unconditional love because they've allowed you in. And when you're headless and you're in that headless space, that, and you can bow to that and you say, well, thank you, and goodbye, and off you go. You may never meet again, but for that split second you were one. So beautiful.
And there's also at the same time, you walk into them and they walk into you. There's this.
Yeah, that reminds me, we tend to feel or conduct our lives like we're the star of our own movie. But when I'm walking in this headless mode and I walk by someone, I'm like, oh, I get to be in their movie for a brief moment. And that's a privilege, to be seen, to be a character in someone else's show, as well as to be the center of your own show. And also what we've been talking about, just how things pass by, we don't hold on to them as much. One thing I noticed walking in the headless way is that we are always here and we're always now. using this example of since there is no center to reality, can we ever go from one point to another? Because there's no reference point. And the Earth rotates about 1,000 miles an hour, and then it's moving through space, and the whole galaxy's moving. So I can walk from here to a neighbor's house, but the rotation might be going against me, and I'm really losing ground. I'm not getting anywhere, even though the scenery is changing, and I might arrive at a new scenery, new house, a friend. So wherever we are, it's always here. We never actually get anywhere or return from anywhere. And we also tend to think along a timeline. And thinking about space these last 2 weeks, especially in the Headless Way, got me thinking about time as well. We're always here, no matter how hard we try. Can you ever think of a time when you haven't been here? And can you think of a space that hasn't been here? And can you think of a time that hasn't been now? Because we also think along the timeline of like, I've come from the past, I'm going to the future, but we are always right now and right here. And that does make me much less attached to everything that's flowing by and helps. And as I say me, I mean like this sort of openness can really relax right into the here and now. And that really helps us be wide open because we're not attached to a storyline or to concepts of space and ownership and going from one spot to another. It's like it's always here and it's always now.
It's a resource. It's something we can fall back on. It's like the it's always got our back, and that makes sense on so many levels, because I know, Kathleen, you've had some suffering in your body. I have, for sure. Susan, I mean, all of us have had, loss or grief or suffering situations. I had overcome a cancer diagnosis, and I found that relying on this openness allowed me to place my problems, my suffering. It allowed me to place it, and it gave a tremendous amount of spaciousness around the situation. And I noticed when I was recovering, when I was in my recovery from my surgeries and all that, when I would get caught in the story of, this pain is happening, this pain is always going to be here, or will I always be limited in my mobility, and kind of getting caught into worry, anxiety, and getting caught up in stories that I really had no way of knowing for sure whether I would regain my mobility or regain my strength or whatever I was going through. When I'd get caught up in the past or the future, my pace would change. My actual walking pace would literally change and get slower. Or sometimes if I was trying to go towards the future, if I was like, oh, things are going to get better, and then rushing towards a future where somehow things were going to be different and better than they were right now. I find it so interesting to become aware of your pace in whatever you're doing in life, whether it's walking or whether it's driving, or sometimes I've noticed that when we're rushing, we're trying to get to a place where we will feel better. But how about just feeling better right now and maybe being grateful for one thing, one teeny tiny thing? What one thing can you be grateful for? What one area in your body is not in pain? Is it maybe your elbow? Maybe your elbow isn't in pain, or maybe something, like it's having an ability to put space around there and going back to the place where what is noticing can never be disturbed. That which is aware of the situation or holding the whole scenario in front, that can never be disturbed. It can never be in pain. It can never be in the future or the past. It's always here and now, as Kathleen just said. Yeah, let me give someone else a chance to contribute.
Well, I'd really like to do the open-armed experiment, because you're talking about backing and embracing, and we could just do that, because this is something I often do when I'm going for a walk. I just put out my arms, these arms, you can't see the whole thing, really wide, and just not so that they're invisible, but hands are just visible, but looking straight ahead and looking at the view and seeing how these arms are big enough to contain the whole view. But what I noticed particularly is behind this view, behind me, the dark, mysterious, it's not light, it's not depressing dark, but it's mystery. And it's the backing to all this. It is the source of everything. And it's and there's a sense of leaning back into this, I suppose, the embrace of the one. And that's very powerful for me, to be embracing the world and being aware of this mysterious backing, support, resource, as you said, Christine. And my little personhood is just a fraction of everything and is supported by this backing.
And it's also like an invitation. I mean, the act of doing that invites and welcomes and says, bring it on. And that includes pain, that includes sadness, grief, joy, everything. I mean, I remember for years and years and years, I was on this spiritual path so that I could be enlightened, so that I could feel good. And it wasn't until a few years ago I realized, like, no, to be enlightened is like to feel everything. And it's all embracing, inviting it all in, the pain, the sorrow, everything. That's where I'm most complete, because that's the truth, because that's what happens.
Right. Yeah.
That's a beautiful description, Pam. Thank you so much for that. And it reminds me that it's all allowed. It's all of it. It's so unconditional. It's completely without conditions. It's all allowed. I remember somebody saying once, it's all hallowed. It's all divine. It's all hallowed territory. For those that are not that way inclined, that it just means this ordinary, everyday occurrence is extraordinary. how did all this happen? You know, these are the questions that so many people have asked. And as Judith said beautifully, it's a mystery. We don't know. We can come up with concepts. We can come up with ideas. You know, Ramana Maharshi said silence, because there are no words for this. But, you know, the beauty is that we can fill in with all sorts of words, and it's all part of it, the mystery too. You know, the mystery is trying to find and solve itself, which is just the cosmic joke, isn't it, really? And I love the direct experience of there just being this, whatever there is, you know, and without memory. I mean, I had a walk this morning with somebody who's new to the Headless Way. And, you know, I said, just go to your direct experience of here and now. And I said, you know, as we walk, you don't know if there's anything behind you unless you're on a memory link to, oh, I remember there was a lamppost behind me, or there's a house. Without that memory and just your direct experience, there's just the view, the scene of this. And, you know, as Judy has said, the void is there without any memory. You can't say, or you've got to guess or rely on memory. And that to me is not direct experience.
There's a word, I'm no expert in Sanskrit, but I read this recently in a book. It said, in Sanskrit, one of the world's oldest languages, the past is designated as gata, that which we have walked, and the future is anagata, that which we have not yet walked. So I just found that so perfect for this little discussion we're having, because the past is that which we have walked, and the future is that which we have not yet walked. And it's just really a beautiful metaphor for the emptiness and fullness, that two-way pointing at our no thing, where, you know, we're pointing at our no face or no head, and then taking the other hand and linking, you know, touching the two hands together with one pointing inward and one pointing outward. We are empty for filling, and we are always built wide open. We are built to love, and that's just the way we're made. And it's such a blessing and a gift. And I've truly enjoyed reading The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth, Douglas Harding's masterpiece. It's a work of genius. And there's a study group, and we're doing a book club looking at that book, which is so dense and so full of these amazing ideas. And I hope that people can, you know, if you're hearing this for the first time, or if these ideas are new to you, or if they strike you as interesting, please join, you know, look at headless.org for more information. There are several places to do the experiments, the headless experiments. There's so much depth to this. As a person who meditated for years and years and years and years, I really understood the idea of no self through meditation. I got that, the no self. And the Headless Way is just exploring that even more and with more depth. And the Headless Way, Douglas Harding's experiments, and Richard Lang's Zoom meetings. There are many, many, many Zoom meetings They're all free. All of this is free, and it's incredibly helpful. I found it to be an amazing resource in my life. And I would love more people to be exposed to this and to share it with more and other people, because it's a gift and a blessing. So if we all want to just wrap up with a few words, a few sentences, or whatever you feel inclined to share, I will pass to Susan, and then you can pass it on from there, Susan.
I just wanted to say thanks to everybody. I really appreciated everything that was said and your experiences that you shared, and maybe we'll take a walk together sometime. Thank you. I'll pass to Kathleen.
Well, I have just really enjoyed and feel privileged to have been in the presence of all you wise women. I really enjoyed everything you had to share, and it really enriched my own ideas and my own experience with thinking about walking in the headless way recently. And I'm just kind of blissed out, so I'm feeling kind of nonverbal. And I will pass to Barbara.
Thank you, Kathleen. Yeah, I too am just so grateful. And I think what's just come to mind is that we talk about, as Christine just talked about, you know, if we walked the past, then, you know, it's gone, and, you know, walked the future, it's not here yet. But this is walking, this is aliving. It's a verb, isn't it? It's ing. So we're walking now, and it's alive and fresh. Each step is actually, has also been said, such a paradox that we're not really going anywhere, that it all comes to us, it all flows through us in a sense. So there's that walking, flowing, you know, and the paradox is that it's also stillness that we can't explain, and all of this movement within that stillness is a complete mystery, and yet it's lived, and we are living it. And I'll pass to Susan. Has Susan already spoken? Oh, sorry. I'll pass to Judy.
Okay. I'd like to pick up on what you've just said, Barbara, and what Christine said about meditation, years and years of meditation, which requires you to sit on the cushion or something similar, or on your knees. And if it's walking meditation, a quiet place to go steadily round in a circle. But this is truly meditation for the marketplace. That's what Douglas called it. Meditation for everyday activity, you know, your whole life, whatever you're doing, you can notice that the world is in you and you are space for it. And that's wonderful, isn't it? Because the spiritual life is about bringing our true nature into awareness, consciousness, as one way of putting it. And we really can be doing that, whatever we're doing. We don't have to be doing something special away from normality. So Pam.
Yeah, so this is what connects us. This is what connects every human being on the planet, whether they know it or not. We're all looking out of this wide open space. And a lot of people don't realize it. I didn't know it for a long time until I did, but that's what joins us. And that's non-duality. And that's love.
Mm.
And Christine, back to you. I think you're next.
Yes, and it's a saying yes to life. It's a giant yes to whatever arises, because to think that you know, oh well, you know, I can't get sick, or I can't have this or that occur. Who says? You know, we are all here to experience life in its fullness, in all its dimensions. And it's okay. Everything is fundamentally okay. You are fundamentally okay. And to know this divine source and recognizing it's all coming to me, it's all coming for me, as me, and just resting in that and knowing that on the fundamental level, you are always, always, always going to be okay, and you are held. You are held in the embrace of the one. So I think we can wrap it up here. And again, if you would like to get onto the Zoom calls, you go to headless.org. There's a space there where you can email Richard Lang. And I truly, from the bottom of my heart, hope that this is of benefit to all of you listeners. I know it's been of great benefit to me, and thank you. And I bow to all of you, and I'm always bowing because I have no head. So I'm always humbly bowing to you, and thank you all for your time and for your love. Bye.
Thank you, Christine and everyone. Bye.